Let's talk about Road to Glory in College Football 26, specifically the high school portion of Road to Glory. So we should all know by now that high school is returning in Road to Glory in College Football 26. That's obviously a massive W, but the question is, what is it going to look like in this game? Fortunately, there were some content creators, some YouTube, some sports writers that got to go to a play testing early and play the game. So they've already, gotten their hands on the game, have gotten to play portions of College Football 26. So most of this information is going to be coming from Robbie Calland of CBS Sports and Chris Vanini of The Athletic. I will link both articles down below in the description. They both have great information, and they both gave us a little sneak peek at Road to Glory, specifically high school. So first things first, Chris Vanini tells us that the high school experience is optional. You don't actually have to play it. You can skip it and just go straight to college if you would like. And I think this is actually a good thing, because if you're a player that doesn't care about the high school experience, you can just go ahead and skip it, go straight to your commitment, go straight to college. I think that's fine. Like, I always think it's good to give players more freedom, more customization, and more options. So if you don't want to play it, you don't have to. And if you do want to play it, you can. Chris also tells us that EA said that the high school experience should last about an hour of gameplay, which seems pretty short in my opinion, and we will get into more why here in a second, because this is actually how the high school experience works. So just like College Football 25, you will choose your starting journey, which is essentially just choosing what star level you want to start at, 2-star all the way up to 5-star. I'm hoping they also add like a 1-star and a 0-star option. That way it's essentially like you're starting from scratch. But whatever star level you choose, you are not locked at. You can either increase or decrease that star level based on your high school play. So if you play really well, you can move up from like a 3-star to a 5-star. Or if you suck, you can move up or move down from a 5-star down to a 3-star or 2-star or whatever. So I don't mind this system too much. If some people just want to start as a 4-star already and try to get to a 5-star, they can do that. So I don't mind getting to choose where you start at, as long as I can move up or move down. That's really the important part of that. So again, I don't think this is a big thing. Some people were complaining about it. I think this is fine. So for example, Robbie Calland, he said he chose to be a 3-star quarterback to begin with, and he actually dropped to a 2-star quarterback based on how he played in high school. And I think it's also important to mention here that EA said there's 10 new archetypes to choose from. So with quarterbacks last year, the 3 archetypes were field general, scrambler, and improviser. So we don't know if there's going to be new archetypes for each position or how it's exactly going to work, or even if we get new positions we can choose from. They didn't mention it yet, so I kind of doubt it, but hopefully maybe that's why there are new archetypes, because there's new positions. That would be interesting. But regardless, once you do all of that and create your player and start your journey, you are going to pick 10 schools to be in your top 10. Now, I don't know if these are the only 10 schools that can recruit you, or if it's like this is just your top 10 and other teams can jump into your top 10. If I had to guess, unfortunately, I would say these are the only 10 teams that can recruit you throughout the recruiting process. I hope that's not the case, but I'm assuming that's how it works. But maybe not, because if you remember in NCAA 14, we would choose schools to go to our college choices, but we could get recruited by other schools. It wasn't like we were limited to just the ones we chose. So hopefully that's how it works in CFB 26 as well. So after you pick your top 10 schools, you will play 5 weeks of a high school season. For each school, you can see their depth chart and where you project, their other recruits on the recruiting board, the team's coaching style and scheme fit for your archetype, and more. From there, you have a tape score that you earn points toward with your play by hitting your goals, with some goals getting boosts for certain teams. You can also get a challenge goal from a specific team that can give you a big boost with that school. And then it says, instead of playing full games, you pick 4 moments from a list before each game to play that have a basic goal worth 50 points and a bigger goal with 200 points or more. So let's break this down a little bit. We are not playing full high school games, unfortunately. We're not even playing a full season. It's only 5 games. So 5 games, and you don't actually play the games. You are picking 4 moments from each game. So I think if I'm understanding this correctly, the high school experience is going to essentially be 20 moments, whatever that means. You're just going to play 20 separate moments, and that's your whole high school experience, which is probably why it's only an hour of gameplay. And then again, assuming I'm understanding this correctly, each moment has a basic goal attached to it with 50 points, and then a bigger goal attached to it or 200 or more points. I don't know if these moments are literally just like one play or if it's like a 2-minute drive. I'm hoping it's like at least a full drive, so it's not like you're just going in, throwing the football once, and then you're immediately back out to the next moment. I'm hoping you at least get to play like a full drive. But overall, and obviously I haven't played the game yet, so I don't know, but I don't necessarily like the sound of it. I would have really preferred to actually play a legit high school season, 10 games, 12 games, and I play each game individually, and then I can go to, the high school playoffs. Maybe this will be a great feature and we actually do enjoy it, but based on how it's described in these articles, I'm not necessarily super excited now for the high school experience. I mean, it's better than not having a high school experience, but I think I might rather just have the old high school from, NCAA 12, 13, and 14. Because I was really hoping they were going to take that high school experience from the old games and make it even better. So you're still playing each game individually, you're still playing a full season, but the games are maybe more challenging. There's a more legit recruiting process. And it sounds like maybe there's going to be some sort of recruiting process in this game in CFB 26, but you don't really get to play the high school football games. So the better you do at hitting these goals on those 4 drives, he does say drives here, so that is promising. It sounds like maybe you at least get to play a full drive. He says in those 4 drives you get each game, the more interested schools will get, and once you meet their threshold, you'll get a scholarship offer. So that does sound similar somewhat to NCAA 13 and 14, like based on your play in high school, you would level up the bars for each school and kind of progress closer to a scholarship. So it kind of sounds like the same thing. As you accumulate points, each school has a threshold you have to hit. Probably, the bigger programs have more points you have to get, whereas the smaller programs, it's less points. Once you hit that point threshold, they will offer you a scholarship. And as he said earlier, these points accumulate to create your tape score. So kind of going off like a huddle theme here based on your tape, and they call it the tape score. You can commit at any time, but as you keep playing, if you do better, you get better incentives and boosts to skills if you sign with that team as part of your offer. This feels like their way of doing NIL without NIL. So it sounds like there's not really NIL in Road to Glory, unfortunately. The way they do NIL is schools will kind of offer you boosts, like you might be a higher overall, you might be faster at this certain school, maybe your throw power is better at this certain school. And they do that to kind of incentivize you to commit there. And that's kind of how they're doing NIL, which I guess is kind of cool. It's better than not having any sort of, incentives or boosts or NIL. But I'd rather just straight up have like actual NIL where it's like a money-based system and maybe I can buy different equipment and stuff. The end of the paragraph says, however, if you play poorly, you can lose incentives, and if they sign another player at your position, the tape score threshold could jump up and you might lose your offer. So if you don't play well, you can also lose NIL deals or those incentives and boosts. But I do like the idea that there is some sort of recruiting process here. So like if you're a quarterback and they sign a different quarterback, now the threshold of the amount of points you need to get a scholarship from that school is going to go up because they're thinking we already have a quarterback. We don't need another quarterback unless this guy's like really, really good. So now you get to play even better and get even more points. And if they've already offered you a scholarship, it sounds like you might even be able to lose that scholarship if you start playing poorly and you fall below that threshold. Finally, you narrow your list to a top 3 and get to do a hat ceremony if you haven't already committed. And we know it sounds like you can basically commit at any point, but if you haven't committed, then you narrow it down to that top 3. And then that's when you have the hat ceremony and you choose which school you're going to go to. And he even said you can fake out a team by like throwing a hat off the table, so that's kind of a cool touch. And we also know you can actually decommit from a school, which I think is cool. Maybe you get a bigger incentive to go to a different school, and so you decommit and then go to that school. That's going to be fun. So there's definitely some cool and fun features that I'm looking forward to in this high school experience. And it actually does sound like there's some sort of recruiting process going on, so I hope that's really, really fun. I mean, that might be make or break for me for the high school part, but I am kind of disappointed that we don't get to play a full season and a full game. And this is just the high school part. I don't know if they've made any big changes to the college experience in Road to Glory. I haven't really seen anybody touch on that. I know that Robbie Callantier didn't even play. Once he got to college, he just, I think switched over to Dynasty mode, which makes sense because high school was supposed to be the big new thing. So I also hope there's big changes to, the 4 and 5 years you're in college, because even if with the high school experience, which is awesome, If the college experience still sucks, the game mode's not going to be any fun. And that was, part of the problem in CFB 25. Despite being no high school, even just the 4 years in college wasn't that fun. So that is a brief overview of the high school experience in Road to Glory for College Football 26. I'm excited to try it. I think it's definitely going to be better than College Football 25, but I'm hoping not being able to play full games in a full season in high school doesn't kind of just completely ruin this game mode. But we will see in the coming weeks when we get more gameplay and deep dives. Thank you for watching. Definitely subscribe. I'll keep y'all updated on this video game, and follow me on all socials at TubbyCFB.